Okay, comrades, welcome here today for the unveiling of our mural, our Cuban solidarity mural. It just also happens to be, thankfully, the birthday of Fidel Castro. He would have been 95 today, so we're also going to celebrate Fidel's birthday on this occasion. Right, comrades, first we're going to do the official unveiling. It's going to be done by Jazz Rodriguez and Owen Corney from this Mishnah. And then soon thereafter, we're going to go into a number of short speeches. Those speeches are going to be by Jazz, going to give a speech. She's a Cuban national who's lived on the Falls Road for the past 20 years. We're going to have a speech from Owen from Mishnah. We're going to have a speech from Jerry from the Workers' Party, Kevin from Ogre Sinn Féin, and then Patrick from Lasher Jarek. So, comrades, if you just bear with me a few short minutes, I'm just going to run through a number of things before we actually get to the unveiling. Right. I just want to reflect on the fact that in my youth growing up, there was always symbols of revolution, you know. Growing up in Belfast, in a conflict zone, there was always symbols of revolution. And for us, they were told on our streets. They were told in the many murals that are on our walls in the city. And also going through school in the early 80s, we had symbols of Che Guevara on our school bags. We had them on our art folder. They were everywhere. They were the symbols that basically told the story of our childhood growing up in Belfast. Now, sadly, those symbols over the years have disappeared and they've been replaced by other symbols. And those other symbols that we see are unfortunately those of the capitalist system. They're Costa Coffee, Starbucks, McDonald's, and unfortunately here in West Belfast, Northern Properties. And they're symbols, unfortunately, that don't inspire us and don't inspire our communities. We're inspired by Cuba, we're inspired by its revolution and by the solidarity that it offers to the world. And there's lessons there for all of us to learn. That's why we got involved in Cuba Solidarity Forum. And that's why I think in terms of the visibility that we are wishing to try and achieve on behalf of Cuba, we worked to get that flag up on the mountain. That was the largest flag that was ever created, the largest Cuban flag ever created, and was put up on the mountain by activists from Belfast, and activists that come up from other parts of Ireland, from Dublin and elsewhere, you know, and for that matter, our own Cuban resident here in Belfast. And Gail Forsart, importantly, it was Gail Forsart that actually created that. So none of that would have been possible had it not been for Gail Forsart. A big Gormila Mayoga to them. And we got to recognize the fact then that Diaz Canal, the Cuban president, actually praised the activists who were behind that and who joined us on the mountain on that day. Now, that's Cuba is an island 6,000 miles away from Ireland. And the thought that we were able to get involved in a solidarity act with Cuba that would lift and inspire the Cuban people, I think we should take great heart in that. So look, guys, comrades, I'm going to ask Jazz Rodriguez and Owen Gormley here to conduct or carry out the official unveiling of today's mural. Just going to hand over to Jazz here.
So what do I have to press?
This.
Comrades, can you hear me? Yes. Yeah, good. Thank you so much for being here today. My speech will be short and sweet. First things first, happy birthday, Fidel. I'm sure Fidel wouldn't mind the unveiling of a mural with Comandante Che Guevara on it, since they were comrades in arms. Also, Fidel is just round the corner, keeping a wee eye on things. I just want to reflect today on Fidel Fidel's legacy for Cuba and the world. It is often said, is that better? It is often said that Fidel was a man who could travel into the future, come back to the present and tell us what would happen, and I would agree with that. The date is the 1st of July, 1965, and the first science research center is founded in Cuba, merely 6 years after the triumph of the revolution. Fast forward 60 years, and Cuba has 230 science research centers all across the island. In those centers, we make most of our vaccines to inoculate our population and most of our medicines for diabetes, blood pressure, and many other diseases, because we knew that we were gonna need medical sovereignty. It is important today to say that in the 80s, along with the growing numbers of research centers, many schools around the island were turned into science schools. One of those schools was the famously known Lenin School, the Lenin School of Exact Science. And those schools were attended by pupils who were interested in focusing on biology, chemistry, maths, and physics when doing their A-levels. I was lucky enough to attend that school, but my luck really could be spelled by two words: Cuban Revolution. It was the Cuban Revolution and Fidel's vision of a nation of women and men of science at the service of her people. They used to call us the scientists of the future. Today, as unbelievable as it may sound, the people I studied with in the 90s have been involved in the epic Cuban deed of creating the 5 vaccines to fight COVID-19. Millions of Latin Americans understand and hope that Cuba needs to be free and sovereign, because they know that Cuba is their only chance to get vaccinated in this world where profit comes before health. Cuba has promised 100 million vaccines to the world after we have vaccinated our population. As you're aware, the blockade on Cuba has made it almost impossible to acquire syringes for the vaccination program in Cuban soil. Now, having said that, I also need to say that the American government grossly underestimated the solidarity with Cuba movement across the world. So today I thank you all for being here, and I'm asking you to break the blockade and donate to the campaign for us to get the raw materials we need to produce our own medicines, to get access to our syringes. So break the blockade and donate. Both links are in the mural. So please share those links with your friends, with your family, and with everybody who's interested. Yo soy Fidel. Let Cuba live. Unblock Cuba. Unblock Cuba. Unblock Cuba. Unblock Cuba. Unblock Cuba.
Unblock Cuba. Unblock Cuba. Unblock Cuba.
Okay.
Gramagam Carta agus born anardy vein show an act again noctu agus surely if a girl then more fictor show and a will for the squire show a hui agus a tag of foil and an hour more missney the groupie Costalinia misnakbel farste agus forward polychul suging agus or now earn more fictor fast and pratak is most to wakame agus waka glordiniala a Rio agus go jaw vintage more again gold shoes and sleeve doing last year agus we share doyle faga and that's a clay ain't he agus pointing chassis son agus and new fartiact less in cost winter Cuba agus Ravloid Cuba and Naden imperialist and Funkan agus and MH and Funkan ata Avri or Aki winter Cuba just to quickly summarize that in English that it's a great honour to be here on behalf of Miss Knockville Farstia at the official unveiling, especially with a man such as Che Guevara here that has and always will continue to inspire us, particularly in this Nocturnal Parcha, and of course with the flag on it, probably the biggest flag that I'll ever see and that most of us will ever see in our lives. And we had an honour to go up that day on sleeve do, and it was great to see the Left Wing United on that day, and like tonight as well, standing in solidarity with the Cuban people and revolution against the Yankee imperialism and the Yankee blockade that they have on the Cuban people. So viva Cuba, Cuba boo, Grandma.
First of all, it is a great privilege to be here today, this evening at the unveiling of this particular unveiling, given that the event which took place on the mountain was significant, right, not only in this country but throughout Europe and indeed the world and in Cuba itself. The Workers' Party is here to express its solidarity with the Communist Party of Cuba, with the Cuban people, and with the government of Cuba in these times, and to stand with those people, that government and the Cuban party, in the face of the US aggression, the imperialist aggression against Cuba. It's clear that there has been a very orchestrated campaign of disinformation and indeed of the orchestration of protests in Cuba in an attempt to provide a false message as to what actually is happening in the type of country that Cuba is. The US has a long record of interference in Cuba. Right from 1899, the government of the US occupied Cuba. In the 1900s, it passed the Pot Amendment, which was designed to limit the sovereignty of Cuba and stop the people of Cuba making decisions for themselves. That continued right throughout the centuries. In fact, until the revolution, Cuba was a country for the rich and the playground for the mafia and their types. It was only after the revolution that the workers and the small farmers, the peasants of Cuba, were able to have a society which was fit for themselves. Prior to that, the US monopolies ruled it for their own benefits and in their own interests. But when the revolution took place, it established a system which was for the benefit of the people, in terms of health, literacy, education generally, and all the resources of Cuba were put for the benefit of the Cuban people. And from the very beginning, that was opposed. Eisenhower opposed it. Kennedy in 1961, when he replaced him, opposed it by starting effectively a terrorist, covert and overt campaign to undermine Cuba. There were plans for attacks against oil refineries, against food distribution, against everything, against the infrastructure, the industrial and agricultural infrastructure of Cuba. There were campaigns of economic warfare and sabotage. And then, of course, there was the infamous Bay of Pigs, which was successfully rebuffed by the Cuban revolutionaries. And that has continued. It continued in the succeeding decades as well, when there were campaigns, continued campaigns, sponsored by the US, from US soil against Cuba, including the bombing of the Cubana airliner, the bombing of Cuban offices abroad. In fact, one bomb in Havana during the World Youth Festival in the 1990s. These campaigns continued to try to undermine the Cuban people, and all of them failed. But the biggest obstacle that was placed on the Cuban people is the embargo, which is the longest enduring embargo and sanctions against people in the world. And that is embargo on foods, on medicines, on basic things that are needed by people, against a small island which has spent all its resources working in favour of its people. And we're standing today here with the Cuban people before this particular painting, this wall mural, to demonstrate our continuing solidarity with Cuba. We know we will oppose every single attempt at imperialist intervention in Cuba. We will campaign for the unblocking of Cuba and an end to the blockade. Long live the Cuban Revolution. Long live Cuba.
Still getting used to these things. Can you hear me? Can everybody down the back there as well? Yeah. Sweet. You're pretty close, Chaz. Okay, Tasha, we're standing on the historical Falls Road, the centre of revolution in Ireland. And what a privilege it is to stand on the Falls Road with Che Guevara looking over us, looking over the mountain
and looking over the flag that we all took part and we all played our part in setting on that mountain. What a privilege it was to be there that day. Now I must say about Cuba, they have been unshakable in their solidarity towards the Irish people and towards Ireland. Even when our own government, our own people wouldn't support us, when Jack Lynch marched his men up to the border and marched them back down again, there was one small island 6,000 miles across the sea that stood unshakably by the Irish people. And for that, forever, we thank Cuba. And to this day, they still stand by our side. Now, of course, in my view, solidarity is not a charitable act. Solidarity is an act of unity. It is saying to the people across the world that our fight is your fight and that our struggle is your struggle. You see, we are fighting the same battle here in Ireland as the Cubans are fighting in Cuba. And that is for peace, it is for freedom, and it is for national sovereignty. So Cuba is the example. Cuba is the light for us here in Ireland. And for the people of Cuba to maintain that strong and unbreakable link with the Irish people, we say thank you. We say Galmina Margov, and we say muchas gracias. Yeah? So the people of Cuba, they set the example for us. And it's simple. The views of Che, the views of Fidel, they are simple. It's peace, it's love, and it's freedom. That's all that people want. Everybody wants freedom. Everybody wants freedom. So, when the Yankees, when the European Union, when the British government say that Cuba is no more, that they will take down the government, that they will usurp the democracy of the people of Cuba, will the people of West Belfast say no? We will always say no. Cuba is sacred to us here in Belfast, and that grand connection, that grand connection between our people and the people of Cuba will never be broken. So Akarja, fair play to you all that have come down here today, that have shown your solidarity towards the Cuban people. And let this be the point where we say we stand by Cuba every time, all the time, or if we don't, we never stand by Cuba. Not everybody here today, Akarja, supports the revolution. I'll not name names. But what I will say is the majority of us here are united in our opposition to the Yankee government to try and take down the people of Cuba, and we stand firmly behind the Cuban revolution and the Cuban people. So I stand here today and I say, Yo soy Fidel. Yo soy Fidel. So, for all of us here, thank you for coming. And as I say, this is the start of something great. This is the start of the people of Belfast building a real and tangible connection with the people of Cuba. So, Mila Mahagov, thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Y yo soy Fidel. Yo soy Fidel. Yo soy Fidel.
Yo soy Fidel. Yo soy Fidel.
Corby, I'll go back and down here and chat Shaw for Kenya and Mural Shaw. As we're standing here in Davis Street, I'm privileged to be standing with like-minded people who support the revolution, not the counter-revolution. The counter-revolutions that take place throughout the world are abysmal and a scourge on all of us who support revolution in Cuba. And I'd just like to say that, without giving a history lesson, when I was a kid, I've been supportive of the Cuban Revolution. People like Che Guevara, Fidel, and many others. And they inspired me to get involved in politics, inspired me to get involved in revolution. And I'll always be a revolutionary. And I'll never ever support counter-revolution, whether it be here in Ireland or whether it be a counter-revolution in Cuba. I would just like to make just one final point. Yaz was saying here about the fact that it would be Fidel being 85 today. And 40 years ago this year, when 10 of our lads went on hunger strike, Fidel Castro, among others, stood shoulder to shoulder with the hunger strikers and hate blacks of Long Cash, and he will always be seen by me and many other Irish Republicans, Irish Socialists, Irish Revolutionaries as a man, without putting him on a pedestal, which we should never put anybody on a pedestal. We will admire people like Fidel, Che, and many others. So, Kuramila Mayogov.
comrades, we're shortly going to move around to the other side of the international wall, where there is a mural of Fidel Castro there, and we're going to give him a birthday greeting for today. But before we do so, comrades, I'd just like to remind you that as well as sovereignty, as well as freedom, there is socialism, and what we want to build here is a socialist, free, sovereign, socialist republic. You know, it's very important. So we want to replicate, not an exact, what Cuba has. We want to issue and give our solidarity to Cuba, and we want to build a similar framework that works for Ireland on this island, that creates an Ireland of equals, that creates freedom for us all and discrimination against no one, that creates justice, but at its heart has got to be socialism. Without that, then we'll just be replicating what's gone before, and we don't want that. We need a break with that. We need a break with that imperialist system. We've got to create something new here on the island of Ireland. All right, comrades, if you just want to follow me around the corner, we're going to go around and say happy birthday to Fidel Castro.
See you later.
That was stressful. Getting the free connection.
Sorry.
Paul, are we still filming? Our Owens has gone to get Killian. Killian was asleep in the car, so he was woken up. He was just across the road, but he's gone to get it. So, vale. So, guys, I'm just gonna do a quick speech for. Can anybody film me? Spanish? No, I thought I would talk about that. So, we can do for Cuba, for the Cuban. Let me see. Okay?
She's playing herself, Bill. Spanish, English. She's doing a Spanish thing.
No, you said it. Can you send it on my phone? Right, guys, do you mind if I do it in Spanish just a wee minute for Cuban news?
I've got a translator here anyway.
Good luck with that. Hola, estamos aquí hoy en Irlanda, en Belfast, en un mural que hay justo al lado de la calle Halls, celebrando el 95 cumpleaños de Fidel Castro. Justo al doblar, develamos un mural que hicimos con la bandera que pusimos en la montaña negra de West Belfast, y pues estamos aquí reflexionando y hablando entre nosotros con respecto a lo que significa el legado de Fidel Castro en Cuba en este contexto pandémico de hoy. Y pues estábamos hablando de cómo el 1 de julio de 1965 se crea el primer centro de investigaciones en Cuba, el CENI, y 60 años más tarde Cuba tiene 230 centros de investigaciones en toda la isla. Fidel, se ha dicho muchas veces, que es un hombre que viajaba al futuro, regresaba al presente y nos decía qué iba a pasar, y esa frase nunca ha estado más vigente que hoy, que pues estamos aquí y que realmente nos damos cuenta como cubanos que necesitamos soberanía médica y que por eso hemos creado nuestras 5 vacunas. También tenemos que decir que las escuelas como la Lenin, las escuelas de los 3 de ciencias exactas, fueron escuelas que se crearon justo para suplir la demanda de esos centros de investigación que iban a necesitar científicos para trabajar en ellos y poner al servicio de la población cubana todas las innovaciones o las investigaciones que se hicieran en un determinado momento con lo que se requiriera en el momento oportuno. Pues hemos estado aquí con casi 50 amigos y pues hoy decimos felicidades Fidel, happy birthday Fidel Castro, and happy birthday, happy 95th birthday. Fidel is alive and well. Fidel vive, 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 Fidel vive. Muy bien, muchas gracias.
Gracias, gracias. Muchas gracias.
Once again, comrades, Goramila Mayagat, muchas gracias for coming along here today. There will be further solidarity events. We've had talk with Helene and Paul Mosky with regards to a solidarity benefit concert up in the Falls Park on behalf of Cuba to raise funds for Cuba at the moment, which are essential, absolutely. To break down the blockade, there are funds and different shipments that are coming in from different countries, like some Mexico, Venezuela, Italy, Bolivia, you know, and I think that Ireland can play its part in that campaign, you know, and if we can do so, it'll be massive. And if we can do it in Ireland, there's no reason why it can't be done elsewhere. So it could be the start of a great campaign on behalf of Cuba and in order to break down the blockade that exists there. So again, comrades, thanks for coming along here today, and I'll see you at future events. We'll keep you posted through the Facebook and through the WhatsApp group and stuff like that, okay? For a meal of my comrades.